Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Worldview. My name is Chris Greco. I'm your host for the next 30 minutes, talking about different parts of the world. And what I wanted to do today was to literally take you on kind of a world tour, different events that are happening, and most of these, if not all of these, are taken from the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. The BBC, to me, is one of the most international broadcast giants and very, very, very good at doing what they do. And that is reporting the news and then not commenting or editorializing the news as they report it. The US media has this habit, and I'm just going to vent a little bit at this point. The US media has this habit of they'll announce a story, they'll go to the story will be reported, come back, and the talking head has to say something like, "Oh, isn't that a shame?" or "Wow, we're really looking, oh, this is such a," I mean, shut up. The story has been said. We don't need what you think. All we need is journalistic integrity. You just report the news, move on to the next story. You don't sit there and try to figure out what's going on or somehow put your own little 2 cents into it. And I love the BBC for that. They don't do that. Neither does France 24. Neither does DW. Neither does some of the other international stuff. They move from story to story without comment. That's exactly the way it's supposed to go. I don't want to hear all the other bull crap that goes along with it. And that's why I picked BBC. And that's why I do a lot of the stories from the BBC, because these are stories that are not reported by the US media. They're not, unless it contains one of two things: violence, in which case, France, the current riots that are happening in France, we could have cared crap about them about last week, and all of a sudden they're major stories. Why? People are literally getting arrested, people are getting hurt. Now it's a story. Now it's the way it goes. Now it turns into riots. Now property is being destroyed. Things are being burnt, which is interesting because France is one of the climate accord things. They're burning all this stuff, caustic, into the air. So all these things are happening. The U.S. is on that reporting thing. Oh, we have somebody on the ground. Yes, they're in Paris. Blah, 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 whatever. So that goes on. That goes on into that area. In the meantime, there is crap happening everywhere else in the world, and well, it's not bloody. If it's not bloody, then it's really not worth reporting. So they put it in the thing like Haystack News and other areas that are really, really good about this stuff from an international perspective, and that's what I'm taking it. And this is what the worldview is all about. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that we talk about the worldview from a world perspective, right? So this is the world, and this is what we're talking about. So the first story we want to talk about is the 8-year election ban for Brazil's Bolsonaro. Basically, what happened is that the Supreme Electoral Court voted 5-2 to bar this guy, who was the president of Brazil, is now Lula da Silva. He's leftist guy, but hey, I'm not one to say whether that's good or bad, or Bolsonaro was good or bad. I'm just saying that this is what's happened. And Bolsonaro now has, he cannot run for office for 8 years. Cannot run for office for 8 years. Does that remind you of anybody that they want to have that happen to here in the United States? Oh, never mind. Anyway, so this is the situation that's happening in Brazil. Where is Brazil? I think a lot of times people sit back and they go, "Well, I know where Brazil is." Really? Well, let's talk about it for a second. Here's Brazil, the largest landmass basically in South America. Here it is right here. Big, big area, right? I mean, this thing is huge. It's a big area, and it has a lot of basically tropical rainforest. Tons and tons and tons of tropical rainforest, a lot of which is going away. It's being developed. The roads are going through. Things are happening. So they're burning a lot of it. It's a real big problem. When Bolsonaro was there, Lula da Silva, the part of the deal was when he got elected was he was going to stop all that. Well, it hasn't stopped. The the elimination of the tropical rainforest in Brazil, the Amazon rainforest, is still is still ongoing. So I just thought I'd throw that out at those people that sit there and say, Bolsonaro got what he deserved. Well, whether he got what he deserved or not, the bottom line is how many U.S. people really know this? How many U.S. people actually know just what happened here? So, I mean, Oh, I didn't realize that was being reported. Yeah, right. So this is the worldview that's going to be reported on that. So let's talk about the next area we're going to talk about. So the next area we're going to talk about is here. And this is interesting because when we talk about this, a lot of people do not understand where the Netherlands is. The Netherlands is here. This is Denmark. Germany is right here. And it's people sit back and they go, "Oh, I thought Netherlands was up here." No, this is Scandinavia up in here, right? Sweden, Norway, all that area, Denmark. This is not Scandinavia. So all these it's really interesting to see how people just they're geographically, I wouldn't call it illiterate, but they just don't know where countries are. And this is the country. This is Netherlands right here. So what is there about Netherlands? Well, let's talk about that. So we had the election the election ban here, but what's going to happen here? Well, Dutch is going to restrict chip equipment exports amid U.S. pressure. Why is that happening? And why should we care? It's because the U.S. wants to dry up all the ability for China to get chip, to manufacture chips or to get chips. If you can't manufacture them, you're going to have to get them from someplace else. So basically, chip equipment exports. You see, a lot of people think these chips kind of just appear out of nowhere, poof, and all of a sudden chips appear. They don't appear. You have to have very, very, very exacting equipment to make chips, to make those chips go into your phone, to make those chips that allow me to do this, to make those chips that do everything we do every single day, drive a car. It's funny because people sit there and say, well, yeah, but it doesn't really affect me because I don't drive and I don't have a phone, whatever else. Do you wear clothes? Do you wear clothes? Because chips are essential for making clothes. I mean, for making things, for making these headsets, for making all these different areas, chips are essential for doing that. So all of a sudden, the U.S. is putting pressure on the Dutch to stop giving equipment to China. So again, we have this 6 degrees to China thing. There it is. That's what's happening there. So now where's what are we talking about? We talk about Dutch. We talk about the Netherlands. Here it is, folks. There it is. Dutch. Okay? Not Danish, that's Denmark. Not Norwegian, that's Norway, and not Swedish, that's Sweden. Okay? So that's what's happening there. But I'll tell you what, let's stay here for a second. Let's talk about Sweden. Now, here's what's happening. Sweden wants to join NATO. It's very important for them to join NATO. They really want to join NATO. So Sweden has made, they want to join NATO. That is so important to them to be able to do that, so that they can, So Sweden wants to join NATO. So does Finland, right? Sweden wants to join NATO. Here's the problem. The problem is all the way down here in all the way down here. There's the Black Sea here. There's Hungary. There is Turkey right here. There's Turkey right here, right south of the Black Sea. What's north of the Black Sea? That would be the people at war here. We got Ukraine and Russia. So Turkey, also part of NATO, does not want Sweden to join NATO. So Turkey is holding off, right? It does not want Sweden in NATO. Why is that? Well, the reason that Turkey does not want Sweden in NATO is they are accusing Sweden of harboring uh, insurgents and terrorists that are basically sought by Turkey, and they want them to give them up back to Turkey. And Sweden says, no, we're not going to do that. So Sweden says no. So Turkey says, no, we're not going to allow Sweden into NATO. Here's where the situation becomes international. So what does Turkey want? Well, Turkey wants F-16s. They want the new F-16s. They want F-16s. So Turkey wants F-16s. The U.S. is about to give Turkey F-16s. There's one big problem with this, is that Congress has to approve it. So Congress, the U.S. Congress, specifically House of Representatives, but we'll talk at the U.S. Congress, has to okay, right, the sale, right, of F-16s. So they have to say that. Well, what else does the Congress want? U.S. Congress wants Sweden in NATO. So, and the thing is, everyone, you're probably sitting there saying, "Well, what U.S. news did?" Nope, sorry, no U.S. news did this. This was either France 24 or DW or one of the other news one of those news people that had decided that this was a big story, which it is a big story, but it's not blood, it's not violence, it's not people setting fires, so therefore it doesn't go up to that level of what we call cognitive news, right? Intuitive news. You sit back and you say, "Gee, I got to think this through." Right? It's cranial. It's a cranial exercise, and nobody wants to do that. So they rather see blood and things blowing up and fire and all the other things go along with that because that's news. People, oh my gosh, look at that! Oh, that's what's such a shame. Look at them. And what are they doing? Oh my gosh, they're protesting this. Blah blah blah. Well, that's really nice. In the meantime, you got Russia knocking at the door. Finland having to build a wall. Finland has built a wall, folks. Gee, where'd that come from, right? Finland has built a wall. They're building a wall all the way along the longest border of any country with I want to say Soviet Russia, but basically, I mean, they are. I mean, in my opinion, they're doing things that Soviet Russia did, but basically Russia, Russian Federation, and they're trying to build a wall all along in this area. So they have to say okay to that. Well, they're not going to say okay to that unless Turkey says okay to Sweden. So now the US has become involved in this whole situation of trying to get Sweden into NATO. They want Sweden in NATO badly, badly, badly. They want them in there. And Sweden wants it in there. And we want them in there because basically now it puts another buffer in this whole situation. Norway, already in NATO. We're good. So, I mean, so who's next? All these Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. They finish out the border here all the way to Poland. So this, Russia, and then you have Belarus, which borders these areas, and Poland is upset about that whole situation. So I mean, this is a world catastrophe when we talk about this area. But nope, nope, nope. Don't want to bring that up. Don't want to bring that up because that's something that's just it isn't going to be there. So that's Turkey and Sweden, and that's what we have here. So what else do we have? So the Dutch, they're restricting that. Restricting that area. So what's another area? Well, another area is going to be Moldova. Let's talk about Moldova here just for a second. This is Moldova. Now, if we take a look at Moldova, we go all the way through here, you'll see right along in this area that there's kind of like a county or some type of separate area here, right along in this area right here that borders, interestingly enough, borders Ukraine. Well, it just so happens that there are troops along this area right in here. What type of troops are they? They're Russian troops. There are Russian troops right along this border between Moldova and Ukraine, right along this area. I mean, so we sit back and we go, gosh, I didn't realize that. Well, yeah, not many people do. It's called Transnistria. That's what it's called, Transnistria. And it's kind of their own separate area here. Matter of fact, let's see if it actually comes up at all. Sometimes it'll come up as you get closer. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It all depends. It's not coming up. But basically, that's what that whole area is. And there are over 1,000 troops, maybe more, along this area. And that is where you have a problem because you have Moldova trying to play good with the Russian troops that are all along this area, and at the same time try to get into the European Union, which is where they want to be. Well, so what happened? Well, you have a problem here. So the problem is this, is that there's been an attack. 2 dead as man opened fire inside the airport. Now you sit back and you go, well, they were coming. Wait a minute, they're coming off the. He's coming off the airplane. How did he get a gun? He got a gun off one of the customs people. The customs people wouldn't let him in to Moldova, and he grabbed a gun, killed two officials, and then he was wounded and he's been taken prisoner. So the bottom line is that here's Moldova trying to do what they can to keep the peace, and it's funny because he said he had arrived from Turkey and then was refused entry. So and the thing is, it's a 43-year-old Tajikistan national. Where's Tajikistan? So let's take a look at that. Where is Tajikistan? So Tajikistan is part of what they call Central Asia. And if we take a look at this area here, we'll take a look at some different, what they call the stans, right? The different stans that exist in these areas. So you take a look at this, and where's this? Where's this? Where is this? All of this is Central Asia. And interestingly enough, if you take a look at all this area, you can see that this is Georgia here, not Georgia like my sweet Georgia, but Georgia from the former Soviet Union, right in this area, Azerbaijan, Armenia here, and then you keep going around this area, and you can see that there's there's a province from there. Here's Kazakhstan here, one of the stans, and you can see. I want to try to get Tajikistan here for you. Where are you, Tajikistan? I mean, it's kind of sad. There's Uzbekistan. Okay, good. Uzbekistan is here, and Tajikistan, I think, there's Kyrgyzstan here, and here's Tajikistan. All right, so we have all the stans here, what they call Central Asia. Central Asia. So here's Tajikistan here. Who's Tajikistan? What are they aligned with? What's Tajikistan aligned with? Tajikistan is aligned with Russia. Now, a lot of people sit there and say, oh, no, they're not. Tajikistan is a major aluminum producer, and they are part of they're part of like a what they call there's a thing called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And this is interesting because it's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is it's part of a larger area, a larger bunch of people. And interestingly enough, I mean, it's even sanctioned by the UN. The UN has sanctioned them. So I mean, that's interesting how that's happening, right? So these are you have Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, all these member states that are part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So the SCO is extremely, extremely important. And interestingly enough, the more that this happens, the more that we sit back and we say, "Geez, Chris, you've said this before." Yes, I have. And Tajikistan, so should they be, should Moldova, you know, be upset about that? You know, should they be upset about what's going on and how's it working? The bottom line is that, and I'm going to spell it right this time, Tajikistan, not Tajikistan, whatever I put there before. Tajikistan is part of that organization. So they're aligned with Russia because Russia's part of the SCO, China's part of the SCO, India and Pakistan are part of the SCO. There's a lot of people that are part of the SCO. Moldova has been scared because they have, as I've said before, and they're all the way over here. Moldova has a situation where they're scared because they want to be part of the European Union, and they at the same time they want to try to figure out exactly what's going on with Russia, and they're trying to keep away from that whole situation with Russia and Ukraine. So this is the location right here where the let me see if I can. This is where the airport was located. This is where the airport was located that they, Chisinau, and wherever the airport is here. I'm going to see if I can find it for you guys real quick. But that's where the airport was located in the city where the shooting was done. So it's that type of situation. Again, Moldova. How many other what media is doing this? Nope, sorry. There's really no media, U.S. media covering this Moldova situation. At least not that I have seen. I'm sure if there were more people killed, or if the place was set aflame, or whatever else, then it would become part of the U.S. media. So I just get tired of this. Let's shove everything away from the world and just talk about what's going on with us. Or the whatever, the Duke and Duchess of whatever, and or the some small, really small individual stories that don't amount to a hill of beans. Instead, they should be covering this stuff. Where do I have to get it from? The BBC. Sad. It's a sad statement on U.S. media and what we do with that. Last one. Mali shuns U.S. troops. Right. All of a sudden, the Wagner Group is in Mali. Where is Mali? If you haven't asked that question by now, you should be asking that question. So where is Mali? Well, Mali is in Africa. So here I am. I'm taking you all the way through all these different situations here, and where is Mali? So let's go all the way over again. Let's bring it over, and let's find out where Mali is. So Mali is right here. Here's where Mali is. Here's where Mali is located. The Wagner Group is located in Mali. And they are doing more for the peace of Mali, because Mali right now is in a state of almost civil war. They're doing more for the peace of Mali than the UN troops are doing, and the French are doing. And the Mali wants nothing to do with the French. The same with Algeria; they want nothing to do with the French. So they're trying to, just get lost, get away, and they're using the Wagner Group. And who does the Wagner Group represent? Whether or not the Wagner Group has decided to go into Russia or not, this is they are mercenaries, and they are going to go to the highest bidder. They are going to get paid for their work, which is to protect and to do whatever to fight and die, or have people die. And this is where they're located, in Mali. So it's the more you sit back and you think about this, the more you sit back and think, geez, this is pretty worldwide. Yes, it is worldwide. And I've also heard some of these analysts, which I just sitting there predicting that what's going to happen is, including Kiev, which God bless them, they're trying to do what they can do to beat back Russia. But I'm going to tell you something: trench warfare can exist for a long period of time. History shows that in World War I. So they're thinking what's going to happen is that they're going to just beat back the Russians, and by the end of the year, according to their analysts, Ukrainian analysts, they're going to take back all of the territory that the Russians had, and they're going to bring Putin to the negotiating table. Well, this is me talking, and this is me talking in 2023, summer of 2023. There's no way that's going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if Putin is deposed. If he's deposed, and even if he's deposed, you got the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. You have no idea who's waiting in the wings to take command of Moscow. And let me tell you something: the people that are waiting in the wings may be worse than Putin. So all of a sudden, you're gonna have somebody in worse situation than anybody else. And also, and something very important from a historical perspective, and something I need to say, is that look at all the people in the world that have tried to take Moscow. Let's take a look at Napoleon. Didn't do it, right? Let's take a look at Hitler. Didn't do it, right? So there's Wagner. There's Mr. Wagner himself, right? Prigozhin. He's decided that he is going to go all the way up here and take Moscow. Now, let me tell you something. He stopped at the right point, because nobody's taking Moscow. Not by ground. Anyways, they're not going to take Moscow by ground. It, I don't care. I don't care how many thousands of troops you have. I don't care if you have 1 million troops. You're not going to take Moscow. It's just not going to. It's not going to happen. The Russians will see their capital city about to fall. They will fight to the last person to make that work. Whether they're for Putin or against Putin, it doesn't make any difference. They've tried it in the past. It doesn't work. It does not work. So don't think that the Wagner Group in all their splendor is going to be able to take uh, that. So I mean, it's just isn't going to work, right? So Prigozhin, Prigozhin is he's sitting back saying, okay, well, I'm in Belarus and I'm a marked man, but this is what's going to happen. Yeah, he's a Caesar. He's a Caesar. He's going to sit back and he's gonna rally his troops based on the fact that he's got the money and he's going to pay them, and he's getting money and he's still paying them. You don't want to kill the golden goose here. So that's going to be they're going to try to protect him until he can no longer provide his troops with the money that they need and the equipment that they need and whatever else. So that's going to be an issue there. So this was a very, very quick tour of what's happening in the world here. And I just want to make sure that I think I hit all the stories here. Dutch to restrict, right? 8-year election ban for Mr. Bolsonaro, Moldova attack, and finally the boost for Wagner as Mali shuns U.S. troop. So that's, these are the stories that, I pick out. You can pick out whatever stories you want, but this is what they taught. This is what you want to consider. This is the worldview. And that's what I try to take into consider is all these different countries in different continents that sit back and do all that. And what's the one reporting that I absolutely advise people to go with is BBC. The British Broadcasting Corporation is good. They have good journalism. They don't sit there and editorialize all their stuff. They report the news and move on. And that's something that the U.S. media needs to do more of, and they need to understand a couple of things. And one is can they please spell correctly on the ticker? I think I've had like 4 or 5 spelling errors. If you take a look at the ticker along the bottom of the screen, which evidently I think CNN was the first one to ever do that, they need to do better at checking the spelling. I mean, they do have spell check for that, I'm sure, somewhere along the line. And that is, if they would do that, I think it would make a lot of sense. Oh, that was a lot. That was a lot to give in 30 minutes. But I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is a worldview and that's what we're going to take. And if I have to go, I'm not going to take U.S. media because, to tell the honest to goodness truth, they do not take into consideration international aspects, and they don't try to link up things that are happening. They don't. It's they have analysts on there, and yeah, they're 2-star generals and all the other horse poop that has to go along with that. But let me tell you something: you need to have somebody who understands the historical aspects of this stuff. And enough is enough. With professors and whatever else, get the grunt in there, get the individual that's been on the front lines, ask them about the situation, what's going on, not the generals and everyone else above them, because they don't get their hands dirty anymore, folks. They don't go out there, they don't take apart, they don't get hit by drones and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So just make sure that you take into consideration, and always take into consideration, the worldview. And for that, I am Chris Greco, and I hope that I will see you next time on another episode of The Worldview.